I've contemplated sharing this story for quite some time now, and first and foremost, I want to emphasize that everything I'm about to recount is true. I won't embellish any details for dramatic effect, nor will I resort to cliched buzzwords to heighten the fear factor. My sole intention is to convey the truth. So, I'll begin at the very start. Moving day had finally arrived, a day filled with both excitement and trepidation. My wife, Elizabeth, and I had just purchased an old Victorian house nestled at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. Its grandeur was slightly faded, but it had an undeniable charm that had captured our hearts. As the moving truck pulled away, leaving us surrounded by towers of boxes, we felt a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. Little did we know, our new home held secrets that would soon unravel. In the beginning, the house seemed like a dream come true. We spent days unpacking, arranging furniture, and discovering hidden nooks and crannies. It felt like every day revealed a new detail, a new piece of history waiting to be uncovered. The old oak staircase creaked under our footsteps, and the soft sunlight filtering through stained glass windows bathed the rooms in a warm golden glow. Everything was perfect, but as the days turned into weeks, an unsettling feeling began to settle over the house. It started subtly. A misplaced item, a door left ajar that we were sure we had closed, and the inexplicable feeling of being watched. I brushed off these occurrences as mere products of an overactive imagination. But the nagging sensation persisted. In our bedroom, there existed a closet with a crawl space. Initially, I didn't find this particularly peculiar. Instead, I saw it as an opportunity for additional storage space. The atmosphere in that room was oddly intense. Throughout the night, I heard scratches and bangs emanating from inside the crawl space. I dismissed it as typical new house noises, but that explanation wavered when I heard footsteps running back and forth across the ceiling. This became a nightly occurrence. I mentioned it to Elizabeth, and she simply laughed it off, suggesting it was my imagination or perhaps a vivid dream. Yet, I knew better. I wasn't imagining things. Despite the eerie nature of these incidents, I surprisingly became accustomed to them and started ignoring the disturbances. Until one particular night, as I lay in bed reading, I heard it, a soft, rhythmic thumping echoing from above. At first, I dismissed it as the house settling, a common occurrence in old homes. But the thumping continued, growing louder and more persistent. I glanced at Elizabeth, who was already fast asleep, oblivious to the noise. With a mixture of fear and curiosity, I decided to investigate. I ascended the narrow staircase, the ancient floorboards groaning under my weight. The thumping grew louder as I approached the attic door. My hand quivered as I grasped the handle and pushed the door ajar. The attic was pitch black, and the thumping had now stopped. Armed with a flashlight, I ventured inside. As the beam of light swept across the attic, I gasped. The space was filled with old furniture draped in dusty sheets, forgotten relics of a bygone era. But it was the corner of the attic that caught my attention, a weathered wooden trunk, its lid slightly ajar. I approached it cautiously and lifted the lid, revealing a trove of relics, VHS tapes, an ancient Blockbuster card, and an old television that seemed as if it had been recently used. The air in the attic grew heavy with a sense of mystery, intensifying the feeling of unease that gripped me. I was baffled by the discovery of a treasure trove of furniture and artifacts left behind by the previous occupants, contrary to my belief that they had taken everything with them. A wave of nostalgia washed over me as I unearthed more VHS tapes. Some of the tapes were labeled with famous film titles like Jaws, Reservoir Dogs, and The Godfather, among others. Intrigued, I brushed the dust off an old VCR and decided to explore the contents of one of the tapes. As the tape began to play, the room was bathed in the flickering glow of the television screen. Grainy images unfolded, portraying a family. Their faces were unfamiliar, yet strangely recognizable, frozen in moments of joy, birthday celebrations, shared laughter, and pure happiness. However, as I watched, I noticed subtle, unsettling details. A shadow in the background that shouldn't be there, a reflection in the mirror that moved independently. Ignoring the chills running down my spine, I continued watching. Suddenly, the room around me grew icy cold, and a whispering wind filled the air. The figures on the screen seemed to come to life, their eyes now fixed on me. The once happy family now wore haunting expressions, as if pleading for something. A profound sense of dread settled in. I hurriedly switched off the TV, but the room remained eerily cold. I rushed down the stairs from the attic and slipped back into bed. Elizabeth was still peacefully asleep, soon to wake for the day as the soft light seeped in from beneath the curtains. Questions raced through my mind. Who were the family on the tape? Were they the previous occupants of this house? I knew I had to wait until evening when Elizabeth was asleep again to venture back up to the attic and watch more. The mysteries of those old tapes beckoned, and I couldn't resist the urge to unravel their secrets. I decided to brave the attic room once again, to explore the mysterious VHS tapes some more. I didn't find anything that would be creepy this time. But there was that shadow on all the images that looked like it shouldn't be there. On one video, the shadow seemed to follow this little girl as she was learning to ride her bike. A profound sense of dread settled in. I hurriedly switched off the TV, but the room remained eerily cold. Strange occurrences became frequent. Doors creaked open on their own, lights flickered without reason, and whispers echoed through the house. I realized that something from that tape had crossed over into my world, something restless and unresolved. I can feel Elizabeth's frustration growing every night. I refuse to sleep in our bedroom. The room, the crawl space, and the attic have become my personal chambers of terror, each filled with an unshakable sense of dread. I can see the concern in her eyes, hear the disappointment in her voice as she questions my decision to abandon our shared bed. But I can't bring myself to tell her the full extent of what I've seen, what I've felt. One night, my curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to watch the VHS tapes once more, hoping for answers or closure. As I played one of the videos, a chilling sight met my eyes. In blood-red letters, the screen bore the haunting message, "You're gonna die." The words seemed to sear into my soul, paralyzing me with fear. I couldn't bear to watch another second. I turned off the tapes, my hands trembling, and fled to the safety of the living room. Now I sleep there with the lights on, seeking refuge from the darkness that lurks in the corners of our home. I can sense Elizabeth's worry and disappointment, but I can't ignore the terrifying truth that I've glimpsed on those tapes. I hope she understands, even if she can't fully comprehend the depths of my fear. I was open with Elizabeth, sharing my fears and the horrifying experiences I had witnessed in the house. Elizabeth, although initially skeptical, also became alarmed by the unsettling events. She insisted we call the parish priest. Despite my lack of religious beliefs, I reached a point where I was willing to try anything to rid our home of the presence. So, I agreed to let the priest perform whatever rituals they do in situations like these. The priest arrived, reciting prayers and splashing holy water all around the house. He even hung a cross he had acquired from the Vatican in Rome in the room that had been haunting me. Despite his efforts, it didn't bring the peace I had hoped for. The figure spoke, its voice echoing with an eerie resonance, just like the words I had read on one of the videos. "You're gonna die," it hissed, sending shivers down my spine. I knew I would meet a gruesome fate if I didn't leave this cursed house. Without a second thought, Elizabeth and I made a silent pact. We had to escape this nightmare. We wasted no time. We quickly decided to abandon the house. We found a brave buyer willing to take the haunted property off our hands, and we never looked back. We stayed away from the old house, not daring to step foot inside its walls again, and settled into rented accommodation. Occasionally, when I pass by that house, I notice a flickering light in the attic window. I can't help but wonder if the new occupant has stumbled upon the stack of VHS tapes, just as I did. Despite the nightmares I still have about being in that house, I'm relieved to be far away from that place, no longer entangled in its haunting mysteries.